Well, good morning. This is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred. Really glad you could join me today out here in the vegetable garden. It's a beautiful day here in October. Well, you know, something's exciting has happened here at Plant Smart Living. And now that it's cooled down, the weather, you know, my sweet potatoes are ready to harvest. And so today I'm going to be harvesting the Beauregard sweet potato variety. So thanks for joining me today out here in the vegetable garden. So now that 3 or 4 months have passed, you know, it's time to harvest these sweet potatoes. And you know, another sign or way you can tell whether it's harvest time is, you know, the leaves on your plant start to turn yellow. Some people wait till after the first frost to harvest your potatoes. We actually have had one or two really light frosts here. And so it was harvest time for these. And so my sweet potatoes are right behind me over there in my end raised garden bed. And so let's go take a look at those. And so my sweet potatoes are over here on the end here. I have 3 sections here of raised beds, and each one is 4 foot by 32 foot long. And they're divided into 8-foot sections. In fact, I just got finished harvesting some sweet potatoes over here in this bed here. It was the red Jersey variety and also the yams. And I had a really good harvest from those too. From the yams, I ended up getting 38 pounds from 8 potato slips. So right up here on the right is where I planted these Beauregard sweet potato slips. And you can see how the vines grow far and wide. You know, you need at least 6 feet or more on both sides of your raised bed. I ended up getting these potato slips from Ray's nursery nearby, and they were 15 cents a piece. So I like using a tarp anytime I have to clean up around my garden. Here it's easier than using a wheelbarrow, especially if you have a lot of things to clean up. And this is about a 10 by 12 foot tarp. It's a nice heavy duty one, so it doesn't tear easy. This one's lasted me for quite a few years. So some of the tools you'll need to harvest your potatoes, you know, a garden fork would be handy to have. Also maybe a small shovel. Also maybe some pruners, because you'll need to cut the vine around where each potato slip is. But also I use my Sierra saw. It's a little fold up saw that I used to use that for camping years ago. But it's got a nice double-edged sharp edge on it, and it's really handy for cutting the vine around each potato slip. And so what I need to do is go around and find each potato slip and cut the vine out around each one, so that I can then remove this heavy duty vine that's taken over the garden bed here. So I grab my Sierra saw, and you want to find out where each slip is, and then just cut the vine around the slip. Again, you could use pruners. They would work fine. And you can see that these sweet potatoes are popping their heads above the soil a little bit. I know with my red Jersey variety I dug, they were buried below the surface. You couldn't see them as easy. And so I'm going to go through here and then just cut all these vines off each potato slip. Hi, Bailey. He's a good boy. He likes hanging out in the shade. He's my good garden companion. Aren't you, boy? Now that I went around and cut the vine off of most of the slips, you just need to grab your vines and start hauling them on the tarp here. It really is a dense, heavy vine. And I'm going to end up hauling these vines over in my compost pile. So let's go do that. So I'm going to grab my two edges here. And my compost pile is over there on the edge of the woods. So follow me along. So this is my compost pile here. So let's head back over and we'll start harvesting these tasty and delicious Beauregard sweet potatoes. These were the sweet potato slips that I ended up getting from Ray's Nursery for 15 cents each. So this is the 4-foot by 8-foot raised garden section that I ended up growing these Beauregard sweet potatoes in. And so let's take a little closer look now at some of these sweet potato slips where I've cut the vine off of. And you can see where some of the sweet potatoes are poking their heads above the ground there. And so let me grab my garden fork and other tools and let's start harvesting these. So what I'm going to do is, now that the vine's been removed, and my soil's nice and loose, nice and dry. You always want to harvest your potatoes when the soil's nice and dry. That way they won't come out wet and cakey. And so I'm just going to go through with my hand around each of these plants to expose a little bit more of the potato. And then I'll probably get my garden fork and we'll start digging around each one. You really want to try to be careful that you don't scratch these or cut these potatoes. And so, let's see, it looks like I have one slip here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Either a 7 or 8. That's coming from that plant. 1, 2, 6, 7. So it looks like I planted 7 here. And so let's grab my fork here. And you definitely want to dig at least 8 to 10 inches or maybe 12 inches away from the potato slip. So there, we're getting some really nice sweet potatoes. I have my one basket behind me here. You can start putting these in. But you really want to work through the soil, make sure you didn't miss any. A few smaller ones. Starting to get hot out here. That sun makes a big difference. We're having like an Indian summer this week. A couple smaller ones. There's a couple one down further. So again, you really want to check, make sure you dig deep enough. Yeah, see, there was one down below that I missed. I have to say these aren't as big as the yams. The yams I harvested earlier were a lot bigger. Even a lot of the red jerseys were bigger. I was kind of curious about the size that we would have here on these potatoes. There's one there. A few more here. But I grew these in my composted leaf mulch that's amended with topsoil. And you want to make sure your sweet potatoes get a good 6 to 8 hours of sun. You know, the more the better, I always say. These are definitely a smaller variety of sweet potato, which is okay. These should have great flavor. Here's another slip right here. Let me grab my fork and go through here, make sure I didn't forget anything or miss any. And then I have one more slip on this row here. There's one here on the end. There's a nice sized sweet potato. Interesting shaped potato right there. And this one double check here, make sure there's none below. I see a couple sticking above the surface here. A couple minutes there along the edge. And so I had that one more row to go. And so I have a few more here to harvest. Go through these pretty quickly here. You can try pulling up on the slip and see what potatoes come up with it. But definitely get your garden fork and go underneath where each slip is and lift it up. You can see there was a couple. There's a nice sized one buried. I also got these sweet potato slips from Ray's Nursery nearby. They cost me 15 cents a pound, a slip. And so it's very reasonable. There's a group of 3 there. You could get these at a local nursery nearby, or probably even order some of these online. There's one who was buried. So you definitely, there's a couple more. So you really want to go through and check carefully that you don't miss any. And there's one. And it looks like I cut this one in half, so again, those you can clean up and eat right away. You know, storing your potatoes, they sweeten up over time too. That's another advantage of storing your potatoes. There's the other half of that potato that I was looking for. And so it's nice having this raised bed because I'm prying it off the edge of the bed here and then just lifting it up. And so I have a few more plants to go here. Maybe one more in the end. And there's a couple. So for me, the garden fork really works well. Allows you to get under the potato real good and lift them up. But definitely go through your soil, make sure you didn't miss any. So anyhow, I think that pretty much does it for that row of potatoes. So now that I have these 2 baskets full of these Beauregard sweet potatoes, let's go measure them and see what each row produced in weight. Come on, Billy, you coming? Come on, boy. Okay, so I have my scale right here, and we're going to weigh each basket. Each basket weighs about 1 pound, so we'll minus each one. This weighs about 19 pounds. Minus 1 pound, so you have about 18 pounds. So let's take a closer look. So these are Beauregard sweet potatoes in one row, which is about 8 slips. Produced about 18 pounds. That's minusing the 1 pound for the basket. And so let's take this one off. I'll put the other basket on and see what's the weight of that one. About the same thing, 19 pounds it's showing here, minus 1 pound, so you have about 18 pounds of sweet potatoes here. Let's take a closer look. So between 2 baskets we have 38 pounds of Beauregard sweet potatoes, and I'd say that's a pretty good harvest of potatoes. And so again, we're going to be curing these for about 2 weeks. You know, you keep them dry, you don't want to wash them off, maybe dry them off with a dry rag. Store them for about 2 weeks in a warm, humid place, preferably around 80 degrees, and then move them down in a cool place, you know, preferably your basement and some egg crates. You could wrap each one of them with newspaper too. That's what some people do. But they store really great over the winter. You know, I also store my butternut squash and my acorn squash and my blue Hubbard squash. So anyhow, it was really fun harvesting these beautiful, tasty, and delicious Beauregard sweet potatoes from the garden. So thanks for joining me today out here. Starting to definitely warm up here in Pennsylvania, Zone 6. Well, anyhow, if you have any questions or comments about this video, feel free to leave them in the section below. And also, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so you could receive future videos. And you could also visit us at plantsmartliving.com. Well, anyhow, I hope you have a wonderful day. So until next time, this is Plant Smart Living with Farmer Fred.